We like to talk about cameras a lot, shooting, the new products that are coming out, whether it's a lens, a new way of capturing, maybe some new updated sensor design or something like that. But at the end of the day, almost everything we shoot, whether it's photo or video, needs to be edited if anyone's ever going to see it. I know I've shot a lot of raw footage, and I would not want all of it to be out there for the public to view because at the end of the day, it's just not that entertaining to see raw footage a lot of the times. There's a lot of mistakes that need to be taken away because let's face it, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes. And in general, you want to filter, you want to edit your footage or photos to be consumable by the end viewer. So it doesn't really matter what camera you're using or what you're shooting or your lens or blah, 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 whatever it is. In terms of production, what kind of matters is how it all gets edited. And I think there's a lot of ways to quantify a good editor, but I think the number one biggest thing for me in terms of editing, what it means to be a good editor, is it the person that you can give your raw footage to or your raw content to, and they can transform it into the deliverables. And of course, that's so obvious. It's so like, duh, they're editing, that's their job. But truly, it's quite impressive when you can hand someone a hard drive full of raw footage and say, I need a video. And they can make that happen because there's a lot of pieces, there's a lot of ingredients to that footage to achieve that final result. You've got B-roll, you've got voiceover, you've got interviews, maybe you have scripted scenes, you've got multiple cameras, you have multiple devices, maybe your audio was recorded separately, you've got drone shots, you've got time lapses, you've got so many pieces to play with, and it's kind of like a puzzle that you gotta put it all together and see how it fits, and there's parts that need to be thrown away that you don't want because they're just gonna clutter it up, but there's other parts that you need to keep that really make the piece shine, and knowing the difference between the good and the bad, the right and the wrong is really, really difficult. And it comes with years of experience of doing the job and refining the craft. And it's that type of person that can make it all work from mountains of footage. Let's say there's 100 hours of footage and you need to make an hour-long deliverable. Well, that's a lot to go through. And the best editors are the ones who can do it and make it just look effortless, where they just, 100 hours of footage, no problem. They process it, they go through it, they know what to keep, they know what to cut, and they deliver you a fantastic result. That's the best feeling as someone who's shooting content and you want it to be seen in its best light, to give it to somebody who you trust, who you admire, and then they exceed those expectations. They deliver something that's incredible and it knocks your socks off and you go, wow, that's way better than I could have ever imagined. And that is a sign of a great editor. The analogy I would use is somebody like a chef. And let's say you just want them to make pizza. They work at a pizzeria and they make pizza. If you bring them different ingredients every day, they should still be able to make good pizza. Now, one day you might have tomato sauce and they make a great tomato-based pizza. But another day you might have barbecue sauce and they make a great barbecue-style pizza. Maybe one day it's onions, maybe another day it's bell peppers, and there's some processing that needs to go on. You need to take the stems out, you need to take the seeds out, you need to cut the pepperoni a certain way, you need to shred the mozzarella a certain way. There's all these steps, but at the end of the day, you're just making pizza. And for us, I think we're just making videos, and it's kind of, I don't know, for me, they're all the same, right? The process of making it is the same. What the ingredients are doesn't really matter because if you're trained, if you're good at what you do, you could have any set of ingredients and make a delicious pizza. It might be different each and every day if those ingredients change. And the same thing is true for video. The footage is not always going to be identical. You're going to have different subjects, different types of content, different lighting, different environments, different locations. There's so many variables. But those ingredients, while they might vary little by little, if you're still making good videos, if you're still making good pizza, then just process those ingredients in a way that makes sense. You don't treat every ingredient for pizza the exact same. You don't treat the cheese like the pepperoni, like the bell pepper, like the dough. It all gets its own special kind of, I don't know, the work that gets done to it is different per ingredient. And the same is true for video and those core assets, but we're still just making good videos at the end of the day. And for me, That's what a good editor is the person who you don't have to hold their hand. You don't have to tell them step by step, bit by bit, exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. It's the person you can just hand a set of ingredients and say, go make a pizza. And they're able to do it. And you're like, wow, that was delicious. And then you hand them a whole different set of ingredients, make me a pizza, and they do it. And I don't know why this is lost. I think a lot of times in the client world, clients have their own ideas, their own parameters. They really want it done a certain way. And everyone kind of gets used to the, just tell me what you want. Tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. But the hardest part about that is the communication. It's very difficult to translate one person's ideas into another's. I'm sure if you've been there before, you've had a client who's told you, I want this. I want it to be this long and it should feel like this. And they might even give you an example of like, hey, I saw this Apple commercial that's really cool. I want it to look like that. And you could deliver it and they might be super happy. But there's other times where you deliver exactly what they want and they're still not quite happy with it. That model trains people, I think, to just look for direction in they want it specific. They want it spelled out. Just tell me how to do the job and I'll do it for you. But I don't think that actually makes a good editor. That makes a good rule follower. That makes someone who can take instruction well, but it doesn't necessarily make a good editor. A good editor is someone who can have no direction and still make something exceptional. They can take whatever the ingredients are and make it awesome. And using those ingredients to their fullest. That's the other half of the equation that so often gets lost. It's really easy to edit if you just ignore half the footage. If you're like, that's too much work. I don't want to go through that. Here you go. Here's the product. Here's the finished video. But as someone who's shooting it on the front end of production, going like, well, what happened to like scenes, 5, 6, 7, and 8? Where'd those scenes go? Hey, what happened to like all those drone shots? Hey, what happened to, I don't know, that voiceover we recorded? Yeah, I didn't feel like using it. It didn't really work. Didn't really fit. You wonder, oh, shoot. Okay, is that true? Did I mess it up? Did I do something wrong? Was it out of focus? Was it just like there was too much noise or what happened? No, it didn't really work for the edit. Well, then you're starting to wonder. You're like, okay, so did it actually not work or did you just not want to take the time to process the footage? You looked at this set of ingredients and you said, yeah, but I'm not going to use onions on this pizza because onions are gross, or I don't want to cut them because it's going to make me cry. You're like, yeah, but like those onions would actually tasted really good on that type of pizza for all those other ingredients I gave you. So that's the other thing, is using the footage, using the content to its fullest is another great sign of an excellent editor. Someone who can take all of it. And the other analogy I use often is like mining for gold. In like the old days, right? They like have the pans and they'd be, looking for gold. That's kind of how editing is. You have mountains of footage that you need to go through, and a lot of it is sifting through it, looking for the gold, looking for the best bits. If you take the best bits out, all of a sudden you're left with just gold. And now your final video is amazing because it's gold. It's the best of the best. There's none of the other junk and debris and garbage in there, because there's a lot of that. When you're shooting documentary, reality, whatever it is, there even scripted narrative stuff, there's takes that aren't great. Throw those away. There's no sense in saving every little bit and piece because it just makes your job harder down the line when you're, like, let's say you were panning for gold and you say, okay, yeah, I think there's gold in here, but like I'll find out later. Yeah, it looks like there might be some gold in here. I'll find out later. Well, now you've just doubled your work because I have to go do it again. You have to pan for gold again. Find the gold, keep it set aside, throw away everything else, and move on with your life. Using the content to its fullest, making something out of junk, out of a mountain of dirt, is kind of what makes a great editor. Without the hand-holding, without the direction, without the instruction of, I need you to do this and do this and then do this and then do this, this. That's like client-side stuff. If clients want that, that's fine. Let them call the shots. Let them, they're paying the bills. They can tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. But I don't think that will actually get you to being a great editor. If you want to be a great editor, load yourself up with a hard drive full of footage. Documentary is great because it's so rough, because it's so raw. If you've got 100 hours to go through, start chipping away at it. What's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You chip away at it. And by the end of it, if you keep the gold, if you keep the best parts, and you know how to process your ingredients, all of a sudden what you're left over with is a great, amazing video that no one else could have made because no one else would have done it quite the same way. That's the trouble with editing, is that the possibilities are endless. You can spend days, weeks, or months just thinking about how you could do something because the possibilities are endless. You have 100 hours of footage. You could keep this, you could keep that. What comes first? What goes next? It's infinite. The time it takes to do it is potentially infinite because there's no one right answer. But the best editors, the great editors, are the ones who can look at all that, take the best parts, and they say, this fits with this, just like a Lego. Just like, that's what it is for me. It makes sense. This goes with this, and you put it together, and then you do it again, over and over and over and over again on a timeline. And at the end of it, all of a sudden you have something amazing, exceptional, impressive, that everyone can look at and go, wow, you did such a great job. And all this person had to do, the job itself was super simple. They're just going through footage. That looks good, that looks bad, that looks good, that looks bad, that looks good, that looks bad. Clearing out the clutter, keeping the good parts, and then just looking at it and going, okay, I got these ingredients. How am I going to make this work? And having that kind of intuition or just creative decision making to on the fly be able to piece it together and make something better than the sum of its parts. That is a great editor. And it's the type of people who get hired over and over and over again, because if they require less instruction and it's less hand-holding, it's more hands-off. Hey, here's your hard drive. Make me a good video. I need it to be an hour long. You give them some loose deliverable parameters and they say, I got you. I know I've been doing this forever. I can make a pizza. What ingredients do you have? Oh, weird. You brought me cheese and sauce and dough and pepperoni. And you want me to make a pizza? No problem. I've done that before. Oh, wait, you brought me sausage this time instead of pepperoni? No problem. I can still make a great pizza. Because making video is the exact same way. The footage changes, the ingredients change a little bit here and there, but for the most part, it's audio plus video, and stuff should look good, it should sound good, and it's all just about how it gets assembled, how it gets created. And it shouldn't be hard, but it is hard to be good. It is hard to be great at this. And I couldn't tell you exactly why, other than I think people get afraid of their own ability, or they just want someone else to tell them. They want the blueprint, they want the roadmap, build it this way. But with creative work, with art, it's always a little bit different. And that's the hardest thing to say. When you watch any tutorial on editing or production, there's best practices, there's general guidelines, there's principles that once you understand those, there isn't anything beyond it, because there is no recipe. The ingredients always change. I can't give you a recipe knowing that the ingredients always change. I can give you general information that's kind of like, here's sort of how to approach it. Here's what I like to do when I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. But you're probably dealing with A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3. It's always going to be different. So finding a way to push past that need for the recipe, the need for the spell it out for me, and just to make it happen on your own, that to me is a great editor. And they're like few and far between. Is so hard to find somebody that's that talented, that has that ability, that you can give them something and they go, I know what you want. I can make it happen because I've done it before. But just as equally, it's hard to find great chefs. It's hard to find great painters and sculptors. And like, art is kind of hard because it's taste, it's preference, it's subjective, it's opinion. But it is quantifiable. You can look at it at the end of the day and say, like, that's good and that's bad. But the parameters always change each and every time. And that's the hardest part, because the moment you criticize one thing and you say, yeah, but this is bad, the next project will have like nothing in common with that one. So finding those underlying principles, finding those best practices is good, is necessary. It's a starting point, but that's like the baseline. That's what everyone needs to get started. How you grow beyond that and what you do with your skills beyond that is really where you can reach those upper echelons of getting consistent work, working regularly, being repeat hiring. That's like a huge sign. If you are an editor, like if you just keep getting work, pretty good sign you're doing something right. If you have to like scrape together, you deliver edits, they're never quite happy, you don't get repeat clients, you might want to look at yourself, your own abilities, and say, what am I doing? Why Why isn't this working? How could I get better? It's usually less about the technical stuff. I mean, it certainly could be technical. Attention to detail is important, but it's probably more on the creative side, the decision making, the subjective stuff that's really hard to quantify, that no one can tell you exactly why it tastes good. They just know if it does or not. And that's the pizza thing. You've had bad pizza before and you've had good pizza. Is it the ingredients? Is it how they were assembled? Is it the combination? Is it the oven they were cooked in? Who's to say? Hard to quantify. But there are those chefs that can make great pizza regardless of the ingredients each and every time. And the same is true for video editors. You can give them anything, any set of footage, and they can make it happen with very little hand-holding or instruction. And then there's other people that, work great in the client model where it's just tell me what you want and I'll deliver it. Here you go. But I would encourage you, try and be both. Try and be both of those people. You can take instruction well. You can follow the assignment. You can deliver what you're told to deliver. But you also have the capability of thinking beyond that, thinking beyond the page of the rules and the recipe that you're given. And how can you elevate it to make it that much better? And I think that's what makes a great editor.